Hello, bonjour. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Avec Chapu, Business Advisor at the World Trade Center, Winnipeg. I would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the webinar is coming to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and on the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Thank you for joining How to Create an Effective Marketing Plan that aligns with your business goals, which will be presented by Drew Friesen. A few housekeeping information before we start. Please send all webinar questions directly through the chat box at the top of your screen, and Drew will try his best to answer as many questions as possible toward the end of today's session. For all logistical questions, please send directly to the chat box and I will answer your question as soon as possible. You'll also receive the recordings and the slide of this presentation week. All right, let's kick off this webinar. I would like to introduce you to Drew Friesen. He is fractional CMO focused on providing marketing leadership for businesses in the ag and manufacturing space with a focus on data and consumer insight. Drew works to build marketing strategy aligned with your business goals and then works alongside execute it with your team, leveling up your team along the way. Over the last 3 years, Drew has worked with businesses to create $23 million in marketing generated revenue and recouped and reallocated $150K of wasted ad spend. All right, Drew, let's kick off this webinar.
I'll unmute myself there. Oh. Welcome. We're going to keep things hopefully as nice and simple so that everyone can come away with this with a practical next step for their business. I think that a marketing plan really is the first step in building an effective or having impact with marketing for your business. I have got the privilege of entering in a lot of different kinds of businesses and businesses that are a diversity of sizes and a diversity of goals. And the biggest thing that holds businesses back is the random acts of marketing. And if anyone has worked in marketing or had led marketing teams or been peripheral to marketing, I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. When marketing is the sporadic burst of creativity, but you're all over the place and everyone's rowing in separate directions and the boat's going nowhere. So one of the biggest or most impactful things you can do is learn how to create an effective marketing plan that truly is aligned with where your business is trying to go in order to see marketing impact. So let's learn how to create an effective marketing plan. So as a recap, and I got introed here, so there's not much really we have to cover, but I help manufacturers build an effective marketing strategy and then execute it with their team until they don't need me. I'm in pursuit of understanding what makes marketing effective. And that's what we're going to talk about today, that execution piece. So to start off with, I have to make a quick concession here. I ate some real humble pie last year, and it changed the way I see marketing. There are a lot of differing opinions on what you should be doing with your marketing, right? This is, the only way to grow. This doesn't work at all. SEO is done. Email or cold email is ruined forever. You have to be on LinkedIn. Webinars are good. Webinars are bad. Trade shows are good. Trade shows are useless. You probably have heard all these contradicting opinions before. And I followed all these gurus kind of mirroring their success along the way throughout my marketing journey. And I realized that a lot of it was contradictory advice. And so I, feeling foolish, turned to marketing science to understand what makes brands grow. This number should really change. I think it's much closer to 250 hours, but I spent a ton of time reading through empirical, peer-reviewed science papers, talking to researchers in person, over email, and direct message. And today we're going to look at how marketing can actually grow your business based on decades of science and math. We're going to talk about marketing effectiveness. By the way, this didn't completely 180 all the things that I did. It emboldened many things that I did, but finally they were grounded in reason and not just he said, she said, following the latest trend. I'm not going to go through all my sources here. Some of this is just inspiration, not directly pulled from. But if anyone is curious, we'll provide the slides afterwards and you guys can jump into it, or you can send me a message on LinkedIn and we can keep the conversation going. So before we get started, I think it's really important to note, marketing is not a gumball machine. Depending on where your business is at in terms of its sophistication, its maturity, its product market fit, marketing is not necessarily going to solve your business, right? It's not just going to throw or push you beyond your current ceiling necessarily. Marketing is now, it's not the last step, but of the steps that I'm providing here, these really do matter first. Having the right people on your team or building the right organization around you, having a great product or solution, having the right business model for profitability and that people can get behind, that you are just your distribution network as far as possible, or if you're a service that you can service as many people as possible for the right level of compensation, and then getting to marketing. Marketing won't fix the priorities above it. Marketing is seen as a scaling factor, and that's really important. Like marketing is better seen as throwing gasoline on a fire, but you need the spark first. You need a business that makes sense and works. So we're going to talk about building a marketing plan, but if the most valuable thing you learned today is, we got to take a look at our profitability on our product line, or we need to understand or take a look at, maybe we're not really getting or distributing as far as possible, and that would be a larger growth lever for us here. Those things really do matter first, and marketing can help before you've solved these. But really, marketing starts to become an exponential factor once you've kind of gotten to a good place in the above four. Okay, so what is a marketing plan? So let's say you've got this business and you have a great small team or a medium-sized team. You have a great product that's been tested and validated in the market. Your business model makes sense, and you're able to drive value for the customer, but you're also able to get enough funds to continue growing and reinvesting in your business. Your distribution network is growing, so you can reach and touch more markets and more people. And now you're like, okay, we've done a little bit of marketing. We haven't put enough thought into it. It's time to build a marketing plan. Well, what is a marketing plan? I'm going to describe it. I'm using the most common words possible here. We're going to stay away from jargon as much as possible. I would describe it as a group of initiatives or a playbook grounded in your business strategy that supports your business reach its goals. Okay, so very specifically, I'm using the words intentionally here. It has to be grounded in what your business is trying to accomplish, and it needs to support your business hit those goals. So I have often come into businesses where they're like, all right, Drew, we're excited about this. We're ready to go. Solve our business through marketing, right? How do we fix this puzzle? I come in and I listen to them for about 30 days and I kind of go through all their data and go through, listen to customers and whatnot. And then they say, all right, Drew, let's solve it. But what's more important before you can jump in and do any marketing is understanding marketing's role it plays within your business goals. Here's some examples for you of business goals that you can attach marketing to. In order to build an effective marketing plan, you must understand where your business is headed, what its goals are. So it could be some commercial objectives. That would be probably the most common ones. We're trying to get 30 million in revenue in net new revenue this year. Apologies for the typo. We see maybe 5 million in reoccurring revenue. Maybe you're trying to keep customers around, or we're trying to increase profitability by a certain measure. There's behavioral objectives. This is usually relegated to marketing, but should be a business strategy in general. Maybe increase the amount of people who are looking for your brand directly, that know about who you are and are considering you. Maybe it's getting an external amount of signups to show up to one of your webinars, like this one. We're maybe giving educational content or promoting a service or whatever it is. Maybe it's a certain percentage increase in healthy website sessions so that they're really taking a look at what you're offering and really digesting the information you have provided. Or now this one people normally put in the commercial objective, so I'm being cheeky by putting it here because it really is a behavioral one. You see an increase in sales qualified opportunities. Now be careful, that is not a commercial objective. Getting leads or sales qualified opportunities or high intent revenue opportunities, or all the other ways people define that, is not a commercial objective. Leads are not revenue. Until a contract is signed or someone's pulled out the wallet or purchased something off your website, that's not, there's no commercial use of this lead, right? There's no benefit to your business. It's an indirect measurement or an indicator that you're on the right track. If there's so many people who are your ideal fit and are barking at the door and wanting to talk to you and talk details and figure things out, that's a really good indicator, a behavioral indicator that you're onto something. But that's not a commercial objective. And I think a lot of marketing departments get kind of this segmented piece of commercial objectives where they get told to go find 200 leads this year or 1,000 leads or whatever it is. And it's this volume-based goal around lead acquisition or an opportunity. But that's very disconnected from your commercial goal. And you could see how that could be easily gamified. It's very easy to get leads that maybe you incentivize through a $50 gift card to jump in, or you show up to a webinar and we call them leads, even though all they are interested in the information you're providing, not necessarily your service. Or any other number way to game that number. Leads is not a good indicator of commercial success, or sorry, it's not a full-on predictor, but it's a healthy indicator to show you're on the right track. But if you're going to pick an objective that you're going to align marketing to, I'd prefer to ground it in a commercial objective, something like an actual increase in net new revenue, and then you support it with some behavioral objectives, like seeing these behaviors happen that indicate that we're on the right track. They're healthy behaviors happening around our product or our service. And then the last one here is one that I don't really ever see pushed, but are very important from a marketing perspective. Marketing is a large hood, and most people just put, advertising or social media within it. But attitudinal objectives really can change exponentially how your business is seen in the market. So how does the market in general perceive us, the people who would be our ideal customer? How does the market perceive our category? Maybe there's work that needs to be done to see your category of solution in a new way. Or how likely is it that our ideal buyer recalls our brand next time they have a problem we solve? Okay. I'm not going to go into that. I did a webinar a couple of weeks back on that topic. And if there's questions, we can talk a little bit about that. But that's probably one of the most important things marketing can do is bring awareness to your brand, make it easy to understand who it's for, and what scenarios you should be considering that brand, so that your buyer recalls it in key scenarios. That's one of the largest impacts marketing can have. And it's a really good indicator that you'll be hitting your commercial objectives. So if you can become the brand that's recalled and you're often the one considered and hopefully eventually preferred, it makes your commercial objectives much more likely. Okay, so these are good goals to have for a marketing plan. And you should be grounding your marketing plan within here. Okay, before we move on, marketing plan is a bit of a misnomer. So people talk about strategic planning. I can't see anyone's faces, but I'm sure some of the people on this call have been part of a strategic planning session. I sure have. And we're building what we call a marketing plan, but planning and strategy are actually two different things. And both are kind of nestled into a good marketing plan. But just understand from a definitional, by definition, these are two very different things. So planning is like playing a game of whack-a-mole. So they're coming up out of the game and you're hitting them with the hammer. You're dealing with problems, solving the problem. You're seeing opportunity, you're seizing the opportunity. And so the nice thing about planning is it's quick, it's fast, it's clear. Maybe it's not quick in terms of it'll take you a year to accomplish or resolve a problem, but it's really clear what it is. You can go solve it. So the questions you're asking are what's in front of us that we can focus on and really either eliminate or take advantage of, or what takes low effort but it's going to leave a big impact, right? Strategy is when you step away from that game and you ask yourself the question, what game should we be playing? Maybe it isn't whack-a-mole. Maybe there's an entirely different game in this arcade we should be playing. And there are different questions you're asking. Are we fighting for the right outcomes? Should we be fighting for keeping our current customers around or getting new customers? Should we be fighting for increasing the size of contract people sign with us? Or should we be fighting to enter a new market? Those are different questions and require different activities. But the question is, the job here is to take a step away and figure out what is the right path. What are the win conditions for our success? What needs to be true for us to succeed here? And how can we be sure how can we ensure the best chance of us winning, right? What is in our control so that we can mitigate the risk of us failing this year and maximize the chance of us hitting the goals we have, okay? Strategy and planning, two different things. I should really reverse them there in the title. Confusing you guys there. But both are necessary to build a good marketing plan. Okay. So here's how it's structured, just like the anatomy of a marketing plan. You have what people call an executive summary. This is also the section where you've probably heard of a marketing brief before. This usually happens at the summary level. It's including a bit of the business strategy and what's marketing's role that marketing is going to play within that business within that business strategy or business objective. So you're asking the question, what are we doing and why? Like, what is this? What is the thing that we're going to go do? Hopefully is as simple and as short form as possible here. Why are we doing it? And what do we believe the intended impact it's going to have on our core business objectives, right? So let's role play it a little bit. We want to drive sales maybe for our product. And there is, I'm not usually in e-commerce, but it's a good example. It would be like, say, Black Friday's coming up. How are we going to take advantage of a seasonal behavior? People are more interested in buying during Black Friday, or more are going to consider certain purchases during Black Friday more than others. How are we going to take advantage of that season to hit our quarterly goals for sales, right? So what are we going to do? Maybe we're going to run a promotion. Maybe we're going to do certain flyers or a billboard or social media advertising. We're going to show up and do these kinds of events. We're going to do this kind of promotion and offer. And the top, you're just saying, what are we doing in general? Why is that? Why are we doing this over doing something else or doing nothing at all? And then how is it going to impact the business objectives that we have and marketing's role within it? Right. That's the executive summary. I like to keep that very, very short. Simplicity is the highest sophistication. If your summary is multiple pages long and requires a lot of data or big words, you're probably going too hard, right? And you're losing people along the way. You want this to be a document you can keep and carry as a team. Strategy. Strategy, you're not reinventing the wheel here for strategy. By the time you get to building a marketing plan, you should already have a strategy set. And if you're like, well, we've never done strategy, you have a strategy. You always have a strategy. It's just probably not declared. It's not documented. And it's probably not very optimized for where you're trying to go as a business. But everyone's got a strategy. It's just probably subconscious, or it's informal, or you're all slightly differing in your strategy as a team. But this already exists. You're not creating a strategy for the marketing plan. It already exists, and you're grounding the marketing plan in that strategy. So it's questions like, who are we targeting? Okay. How small of a group of people is this? What specific details do we have about this group to really show who we're targeting and why? Positioning. How are we positioning what we do to this audience based on their context, their needs, their jobs they're trying to accomplish, and what we have to offer them, maybe uniquely on the market. You're also covering in the strategy piece the objectives of this plan. That's the piece that this marketing plan is playing in those above business objectives. Okay. The initiatives is when you get to the refining of the doing. This is the action plan. This is the channels you're going to be on, like billboards, flyers, Facebook, paid Google search, whatever, maybe showing up in a mall, whatever it is. All the things that you're doing and where it is. The creative is the messaging and the graphics or visualizations you're going to use to cover it forward. Maybe it's video, but it's what you're saying and what it looks like. And then the budget and resources required to do those two things. I like to include that all in the same section because really the channel and the creative will probably dictate the cost. Okay, and then ownership. Really important, gets skipped all the time, and then stuff gets left on the shelf. If you've ever been part of a project where everyone got really excited in the room and then nothing happened immediately after, or it gets worked on for a little bit and then we have to go put out some fires and then everything gets dropped. It was probably an ownership problem. So right within the plan, baking in who's leading which parts of the project. If it's a bigger project, maybe breaking that up. Maybe somebody's owning certain pieces of it. What kind of support they're going to get? Do they have access to certain members? Do they not? Are they doing a solo or bringing in vendors or freelancers? Usually I include that in the budget and resources required as well. If there's a skill set we don't have, you're finding a freelancer to help with that. Timelines and milestones. If you've never done it before, give yourself some grace period, right? Don't go too aggressive with the timeline. You don't know what you don't know. But rough timelines, usually working backwards off the date it needs to be done by, right, is the nice way to do it. If you've never done timelining and milestones before, I like to take what is the absolute last second that could be done and working backwards and then adding time so you have a grace period. So if, using our Black Friday example, if it needs to run 2 weeks before Black Friday, because you can't run day of, it's too late, then, creative needs to be done maybe 2 weeks prior to that, so on and so forth. And you're giving yourself lots of space. And then KPIs. Now, it may be interesting or odd to people that KPIs or key performance indicators are in the ownership piece, but to me, that's a piece of ownership. We are held accountable to the KPIs. The outcome, if we do all these things well, the outcome should be within the summary and the strategy piece there. This is what the business is trying to accomplish. This is marketing's part of the plan. This is what marketing is going to do to help us hit this outcome. If all these things go well, we'll hit the outcome, right? That's the top of the ownership KPI piece is everyone is doing small pieces of it. What are key performance indicators to show that we're on track, that we're getting things done? So maybe, for instance, I've done larger campaigns for creative. Well, we weren't necessarily sure if the messaging would resonate. And so a KPI, a key performance indicator, was we shot the creative, got everyone to sign off of it internally, and then we ran it by a customer panel. So, we'll have customers watch it, and we'll ask specific questions to make sure that it's still aligned and resonates with the audience we were trying to hit. So a key performance indicator was the customer panel loved it. The pre-testing worked, right? So now we are confident moving forward. We're on pace, and it was well within our timeline and milestones. So building a key performance indicators into the project to show that we're on track and that things are going well, right? Not just on track with the time, but we're hitting the outcomes we're trying to hit within the larger plan. Okay, pause. I don't know if there's any questions here. I can't see the chat, but are there any questions I can pause here and answer one or two before we continue? I'm looking at the time as well. I'm wary about the time we have left. No questions, so we're gonna keep rolling. If you have questions, let them pile up in the chat and we will get to them as we go. Okay. So, that's the marketing plan anatomy. Okay, simple enough. So what are good activities, or what should be marketing be doing alongside these objectives? So you saw the business objectives, use some commercial objectives, behavioral objectives, attitudinal objectives. What should marketing be focusing on within this plan? And now it's really hard to give you guys a general view of what marketing should be doing because of the diversity of businesses that could be on this call. But marketing really does fit into two large generalized buckets. Knowing that marketing is usually this bigger umbrella. I'm sure most of you heard of the 4 Ps: product, place, price, and promotion. That's not the common marketing department these days. Most marketing departments don't have any influence on price, don't have any influence on where your stores are, what countries you sell into, or can have any influence on the product innovation, what features exist. So most marketing departments are relegated to promotion. Because of that, they get stuck in the generating marketing ROI question or generating leads. But that isn't necessarily the most effective thing because marketing is not sales at scale. Marketing does not produce revenue on its own. And in science, advertising has been tested over and over again and has been shown to be a weak force in persuading customers to buy something that they don't want. I mean, you can, you've heard the analogy, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? That's a lot of what advertising is. Advertising can show people something exists. Maybe there's a unique solution they've never thought about. Maybe they've never thought about your way of solving a certain problem, but you can't make them have a problem. They either have the problem or they don't. And you can't force them to do something they don't want to. And I'm glad marketing cannot do that. So it's a weak force. It's not a sales tool. It is, but not directly. It doesn't produce its own revenue. Marketing is not there to sell. It's there to make selling easier. It's that scaling factor we were talking about. Instead, marketing is better utilized as a powerful lever to enable sales and product to be much more effective and efficient than they would be on their own. Marketing is a non-linear multiplier of sales. Here's the 2 biggest ways that I see marketing plans being effective at doing that. You can sort them into those 2 buckets we're talking about: brand awareness and sales enablement. Brand awareness is, do they know who we are, who we're for, what we do, and what kind of situations should they be thinking about us? And sales enablement, how do we make it really easy to buy from us? That the process is easy, that the consequences are clear, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take till I get the results I want. The information is very clear and transparent, so they don't know what they're getting themselves into. That you're handling the fears and objections they may have before they pull the trigger and take advantage of the offer that you're giving them. Those are the 2 buckets. Really, most marketing departments fit everything into those 2 buckets. Spoiler here, though, is almost all marketing departments that I've ever audited are in the sales enablement category for all the things they do, which isn't necessarily, it's not wrong. Sales enablement is very important. There's a lot of work there where I come in and all they've been doing is sales enablement, and there's still work to be done to make it much, much better. But only one of these goals can truly multiply and is high leverage. Most businesses focus their entire marketing department on aiding their sales team close short-term deals. While sales can only reliably focus on accounts that are in market, marketing has a superpower most businesses don't harness at all, which is brand awareness. I'm not going fully into this because it's beyond the topic of today, but just think of it this way. If it's like a river, and at the end of the river, you have this dam and you're filtering out, good opportunities, bad opportunities, and some people will come through and they'll choose your product. Your sales process is only as good as the amount of water coming through your dam, right? If the mouth of the river is tiny and only so many people know about you, that's all you have to work with, right? So brand awareness is a massive and powerful piece of marketing that is very underutilized because it's seen as fluffy, it's seen as indirect, and it doesn't have strong calculated ROI, which we'll get to today, time permitting. But brand awareness, moving from 0 to 1, not knowing who you are, 0, to knowing who you are clearly, recalling you in the right situations, considering you, hopefully eventually preferring you. That's the most powerful thing marketing can do. Okay. As an aside, remember that brand awareness is literally everything you do. It's the market's perception of you. It's the customer service calls they jump on. It's the sales team interactions, any emails back and forth, including the boring ones like estimates, purchase orders, invoices, billing. It's the events you run. It's any publicity, either you created or not. The municipality or the news writing about you matters. Your company announcements, media mentions, what the purchase experience is like, what using your product is like, et cetera, et cetera. All these things are your brand. So when I'm talking about brand awareness here, all these things matter. But when you're building a marketing plan, only so many of those things realistically can most marketing departments influence. And so I'm going to speak specifically to the advertising and awareness side of brand awareness, where just remember, it's everything you do, some of its parts. Okay. So focusing on building a marketing plan for that supplements and supports your business objectives, building a marketing plan that's clear and covers your clear strategy and who you're targeting, and then what you're going to go do about it, who's in charge of it, what resources going to take. You're building all that out. You've picked 2 really impactful drivers of business, which is building brand awareness and helping sales be easier and easier for the consumer. Now you're like, okay, how do we measure that marketing is doing well, right? Lots of departments love to build marketing attribution or to show marketing's value like this. The business did 30 million this year, and then through attribution software or UTM tracking or your fancy CRM, you said marketing contributed to 10 million, which may be true, but none of the things I just mentioned will actually tell you that answer. There are ways to get this answer, but the answer is trickier than it's worth often, and not where you need to be looking for most businesses. Because marketing ROI is not really a metric you can track, you can measure easily. And I'll show you that really quickly here. This may break some brains here because marketing ROI is used a lot in advertising, and especially digital advertising. People love to use terms like ROI, return on investment. People love to use the term ROAS, or return on ad spend, because it makes it look really easy and linear. We spent this much came in through, let's say, the Facebook ad or the paid search ad or whatever else. Thus, this is how much it costs to get a customer. This is how much money we made. But it doesn't work that way. And the only reason that they do that way is it makes it really easy for the consumers to continue to buy their advertising. And I've come into businesses with great ROI or great ROAS, return on ad spend, that have terrible business metrics, that they're actually not making any money at all off their advertising, or it's a waste of time and money what they're doing because they're not reaching enough people, they're not really making sales easier, and they're running a deficit on their advertising. So I'm going to show you really quickly why this is a problem in the simplest terms possible. So this is how it's normally calculated. You have your sales that happened, subtract the cost that it took to do the marketing over your marketing costs. Usually you get some sort of number, like a ratio. So for every $1 we spend, we get $3. $1 we spend on marketing, we get $3 of profit or revenue or something, right? That's how it's normally measured. Seems simple enough, but it's not like that. So here's the first issue. Current period marketing impacts future revenue. That makes sense, right? The impact of today's marketing lasts way beyond the current quarter, even if you turn off the advertising, right? You run a big promo, there's lots of people who don't purchase, but they saw your stuff. Later on, they'll still remember if you ran something well and you decently showed your value, they'll come back to that idea, even if the promo is over, right? So only a fraction of today's marketing costs can be counted toward today's revenue, because it's nonsense to think that the dollar you spent today immediately was realized in revenue or profit, right? So your marketing ROI is probably understated because of this problem. Okay. Problem number 2. Prior period marketing impacts current revenue. So this also makes sense. This should be obvious, right? Not all revenue generated this period can be attributed to this period's marketing. Past efforts impacted current revenue. So the things you did last year or even yesterday or the week prior are impacting today. And so your marketing ROI on your advertising is probably overstated in that regard, because the things you did last year are counting towards today, not today's stuff as much, right? Issue number 3. Oh, sorry. I'll show you what this looks like first. I forgot that I had this here. Here's a visualization of this. So I have it quarter over quarter, just to simplify things. You got year 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and then your second year, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Today's revenue is a combination of baseline sales, which I'll show you guys in a second, and what marketing did over multiple quarters. So you can see, and this is in a hypothetical, that we started running a campaign every quarter. We turn that campaign off. We run a new campaign the next quarter. And so on and so forth, every quarter moving forward. Well, over time, the maximum impact of this campaign happens over time. You know, you're allowed during the quarter, you turn it off, people still remember what you did. And so it slowly loses its effectiveness over time. But then your next campaign comes in and they're kind of layered over top of each other in a way, because people still remember what you did, right? It's not like they just turn their brain off and they're completely seeing something new for the first time. So if you look at year 1, quarter 4, that red highlighted piece, maybe you run this big ad and you see great results and people are like, wow, great email campaign. You did so well here. This is what really drove an impact here. Or great ad on Facebook or LinkedIn, or we put up new billboards and we instantly saw this thing. Well, you have to realize that it's also a sum of your past efforts, right? That are all happening at the same time. Continue to have an impact on the present. All right, issue number 3. Marketing can only impact incremental revenue. This is the baseline sales idea I was covering. Not all revenue is influenced by your marketing efforts. That means only incremental revenue above your baseline sales can be attributed to marketing. Calculating ROI using total revenue significantly overstates your marketing's contribution. Your marketing ROI in this case is way overstated, right? If you turned off all of your marketing today, sales would still come in, probably, depending on the size of your business. And things would still happen, right? Because you have dealers out there or multiple storefronts or people who know about you in your town if you're a small business. Sales would still happen, right? So you have to measure marketing off the delta, the change between those two numbers, which looks like this. The gray line is the baseline sales that are going to happen anyway over time. And then the green line is the total revenue that actually happened. And then you can measure the difference between the two, the incremental revenue lift, which is the difference between the two realities due to the marketing efforts that you did. Okay? Might be getting some headaches here, but just stay with me. What I'm trying to say is ROI and ROAS, return on ad spend, are not real numbers you can track, especially within a platform like LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, because there's just too much going on that it's not taking into account. To measure marketing, we must understand incrementality. For a better look at incremental revenue, you need to use a control group, or I'll give a couple of different methods for those businesses that are just getting started. But incrementality is the difference between the baseline sales and the actual sales where advertising was present. So there's many different ways we can do this, and I can give you some examples. The easiest way, depending on the size of your business, is just start by turning off certain things that you're kind of dubious on whether they're working or not anyway, right? So if you're running, some of the best cases for this is if you're running what we call remarketing or retargeting advertising, try turning that off. There's a really good chance that's doing very little on top of your sales. If you're running paid search and it's the bulk of what you do, if you try turning off paid search completely or doubling, if you're too scared to turn things off, try doubling the spend you do there and see the difference in sales. If you have a product that is purchased semi-frequently, so within a couple months or something, you will see a dramatic difference when you make those big changes. If you're working like I do with agriculture or manufacturing and industrial manufacturing, and we have purchase cycles that are sometimes 5 to 10 years, then you need to get to more sophisticated ways of measuring it. But I think the first step for most businesses is just understanding the influence your current efforts have on what you're doing. another point to the incrementality piece is because marketing is a non-linear multiplier, all these things have compounding efforts. Here's another way you can track what you're doing is you can take a look at awareness. How many more people you got in front of this year compared to last year? Okay. So let's say we got in front of 5% more people. That's low. I think there's lots of ways to increase that dramatically, but just as an example. And you did this by optimizing the channels that you're advertising on. Maybe you put up some traditional billboards or whatever, and you distribute it with distinct creative that it looked like you, it sounds like you, it resonates with your audience, and you improve the people who recall your brand by 5%. Maybe you deployed relevant messaging on the website that really speaks to the customer's problem and less about you and more about them. And through that and a really logical website experience, you brought in 3% more sales opportunities. Well, on top of that, you refined your offer because you know your audience and the person, your ideal customer. You built a clear offer that really makes sense for the situation that they're in. And now you're closing 5% more deals. Okay. Well, because you're attracting the right people and the offer makes a lot of sense and the creative and the information they're getting is all the things they need to make a good decision, the deal value is going up. People are spending more on you because they're more confident in what you're doing. So you got a 10% increase in the average size of the deal or how much they purchase from you in terms of if you have multiple products. And the last one that people don't track at all is usually sales cycle. How long do people take to make a decision? Well, the more confident they are in your brand, how clear your offer is, how easy it is to purchase from you, you may reduce the time it takes to purchase from you by multiple days, if not weeks. And by handling the fears they have that makes them hesitate and not want to pull the trigger and work with you, you can decrease the time between their hemming and hawing and pulling the trigger or not, which can radically improve revenue. And all these things together equal massive change in revenue. And one example of this is I was working with a business where we were taking a look at the price of their product, and we realized that they could spend an extra. So there was like a 10,000-ish. It cost around $10,000 for their unit to purchase it, and I suggested moving it to 11,000. Well, that's a very small change when most people are financing these units anyway. That's a couple bucks a month. But what that did for the profitability is it actually increased their profitability by almost 50% because of their profit margins. So it was a massive change. And between that and refining their deal, we saw a doubling in revenue. Now, that's not going to happen all the time, but like that is possible through these incremental changes that all kind of compile on top of each other. Incidentally, I chose these ones specifically because these are all things you can measure and understand. I did this thing. How did it affect these attributes? How did it affect how many people are coming to us that are qualified? How did it affect the close rate on what percentage close? The average deal value, how long it takes them to make a decision, how many people saw us is the awareness piece at the beginning. Those are things you can all measure, and you can just take a look at, we did a thing, did these measurements change? That's another great way to measure the incrementality of marketing, right? You don't have to get down to this ROI number. These are compounding factors that really affect the health of your business. Okay, so the last thing I promised in the notes here, and then we'll leave it up to some questions, is how does this turn into an evergreen playbook that you're always getting better? Well, if you know your goals based on your business and you're aligned with the strategy that your business is set, or if you don't have a strategy, talk to me. But if you've built a marketing plan and you're executing it and measuring the impact, you can look at the factors, look at what's happened to, I'll skip back here. Look at what's happened along the stages here. Listening to your customers, taking a look at the business numbers here for you. You can adjust, take into account the feedback of your team, and then go back and refine the plan, right? If the biggest buckets we could focus on are people knowing who we are, getting in front of the right people, and being recalled next time that they're in the buying situation that you can solve. That's the brand awareness part. And the sales enablement part, you always are making it easier and easier to purchase from you. Even if something as boring as adding a payment method or making sure they really understand what it's like when they finally hit the yes button. What do the first couple of days working with you look like, right? If you can clarify those things, that's the sales enablement piece. You'll dramatically change your business. And if you can do those things, you see which ones worked, which ones didn't. Maybe you were wrong about your audience. Maybe you were right and you need to double down. You adjust your plan. You go back to your marketing plan. You don't start over. You just look at your initiatives. You look at where you're spending. You look at the targeting. And you make small changes, right? And so I do this on a quarterly basis, but depending on the speed of the business and the size of your team and sophistication of your plan, that changes. But this is a continual process that you can do forever that creates real change in your business, where you don't have to have a plan where you're like, all right, what are we going to do this month? I don't know. We have to come up with a plan, and everyone's on the spot trying to come up with a big creative idea. That you have this marketing plan, you stick to your guns, and you just continually make it easier for people to know who you are, easy to buy from you, and so on and so forth. And so if you take a look at the metrics along the way, you should be able to see that this is driving real results for your business. And then you can double down the things that are great, or adjust the things that aren't working as expected. Cool. Any questions? I talked a lot, so time to turn it back to you guys.
Yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions, unmute or put it in the chat.
I'll give a couple minutes just in case there are questions coming in. I talked about around a couple complicated topics, or ones that are maybe very different than what they've heard in the past, especially around tracking. So if there's any questions around that, ones that are very practical, ones that are very, very general, I'll take them all. If you think of questions that you're like, shoot, I forgot, I should have asked those things, I'm always available on LinkedIn for questions if people want to pick my brain. And I'm sure if stuff comes in, Eric can compile that and we can send it out with the recording as well. If there's any questions that come in through him.
We have one question here, Stephen. So he says, sometimes leadership and sales miss some of the nuance of marketing. What are some ways to highlight everyone around marketing wins?
Yeah, so it's tough. I mean, all the things that I said are the ideal state, right? You want to do these things because you know they actually impact your customers. But if leadership doesn't see it the same way, you can very quickly, marketing can just become sales support, right? Sales needs this graphic. Sales needs these numbers. Sales needs to look good at a trade show or whatever. And you're just relegated to supporting your sales staff. And you become that one-to-one, low leverage marketing department, right? Where you're doing something, you're definitely making a difference, but not maybe maximizing the difference you could make. I think the most important thing is if you're in a position where you're leading a department, or maybe a department of one, and you're talking with your sales and leadership team, that you need to do some internal marketing. You need to sell them on the vision of what marketing can do or can't do. You need to talk about the current reality of your situation, and you need to look at the marketing plan from this lens that we talked about today and see where are your biggest areas of weakness. One of the big eye-opening moments for me, though it's a simple thing to solve, most people don't look there, is just compiling how many people you're actually reaching with your marketing or sales efforts, right? A lot of businesses in manufacturing really stick to trade shows as the only way. Well, I've done a lot of audits of trade shows, and where they spend thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on trade shows, they had very little actual people reached through it because of how trade shows work. And they'd get much, much further if they did other kinds of advertising, or at least diversified. So really crunching the numbers of understanding that river we talked about, the mouth of your river and how people flow through it. I'm hesitant to use the word marketing funnel because customers do not move in a linear fashion, and we have to be really careful with the language like that. But understanding the numbers, which are kind of a natural funnel, is like how many people you're getting in front of on a daily basis. How many of those come to your website and have a healthy experience, or however your sales motion looks? How many people reach out to you and are qualified? How many of those actually close as deals? If you build out those numbers and you take a look at your sales process, you can see where some of the red flags lie. And you can even start to split that out by channel. Just be really careful. You don't want to just say, this is what Facebook looks like versus trade shows, because everything intermingles. So there's more complicated ways to do those things. But I think the first step really is education, understanding what marketing can do and what it can't do. There's a lot of leaders that came from a sales background that think that if you just convince people hard enough, they'll buy your product. And that's just not how marketing works. Again, I'm glad it doesn't work that way, or else we'd be mind controlled by the biggest brands on the planet. But really, your job is to get in front of your right person with the right message, and then remove the barriers so that it's an obvious pick, right? Hopefully that answers your question. But I would start honestly with internal communication, like really getting together as a team and understanding what marketing can do and what it can't do, and what that means for the business goals you have.
Good answer. Drew, I have a question for you. Before that, Peter has a question here. What is the most important marketing tool a business has access to? Example, is social media an important tool?
Oh man, that's a can of worms. I'm gonna try to only open parts that I can close today. But I find organic social media can be a trap for lots of businesses. It feels free. I know it does. But the amount of work that needs to go in to really grow it, you're gonna run to that reach problem that we're talking about, where you put out a lot, you put your heart out there, you're creating a lot of cool stuff, you're maybe recording videos and whatever. But if you look at the data in the back end, you're maybe getting in front of, tens of people, hundreds of people, where if you put a couple of bucks behind that same creative, you could have been in front of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, right? So I think social media is a powerful tool. I think there are businesses that can use organic social media well to really grow your business, especially the small ones. But realize organic social media will only get worse with time. They're going to make it harder and harder and harder to achieve and accomplish stuff for free because it's a business. So be careful with it. I think the most important tool for businesses, really, it sounds like a bit of a cop out, is understanding your business metrics. Like if you have a CRM, a customer relations manager, understanding the health of your systems. How many people come in, what the likelihood of them purchasing, and how confident in purchasing. How many do you lose? Situations like that. It really is. If you don't have a CRM, and depending on if you're a really small business, I mean, first of all, there's free CRMs. Things like Pipedrive will get you pretty far on their free version before you jump into a paid model. Zoho also, a HubSpot, sorry, has another free one that's pretty decent as well. But just keep it in an Excel spreadsheet. If it's depending on the size of your business. When I started out, I'm a solopreneur. I come in as a consultant and a strategist and an executioner or an interim marketing leader with businesses. I don't have a lot of leads for my personal business. I started with a spreadsheet, right? It's all you need. But I would say the first step is really understanding the health of the current business you have, because a lot of the short-term wins comes from people who are already at your doorstep. They already know who you are. They want to work with you, or they're thinking about working with you. And how can you make it really easy for them? I think there's a lot of business that's lost just being tone deaf to the needs of your ideal customer and not giving them the information they need so they can make a confident decision. So the first step is understanding your current business. And so I would use any business health tools that help you understand opportunities in front of you and how well you're doing with them.
Awesome. We have Abraham with his hand up. You can unmute here. He's also asking, what were the names of the customer tracking apps again?
So customer relations managers, they're basically just how do you managing opportunities that come into your business through your website or whatever. You could use very simple tools. The reality is you need whatever is going to help you manage the amount and complexity of opportunities that are coming across your business. So there are tons that do it. HubSpot has a free version that works for small businesses. You'll definitely have to move to a paid version eventually, but depending on the size of your business, that's fine. I think Pipedrive has a really cheap one and free one as well. You literally could use a project manager or an Excel document in the beginning, depending on the size of your business. I know I'm talking to a variety of businesses here, so it's hard to give you definite answers, but start with something that allows you just to understand the current health of your business. Yeah, marketing cannot be its own. I know that marketing kind of eats itself. It's in a way, and creates all these new tech ideas and jargon. But the reality is, marketing is a augment. It's a multiplier of business, and you really should understand business first before you understand all the cool shiny marketing tools, because a lot of them are redundant and not needed for most businesses. I know I use a lot of simple tools compared to what's out there because you really don't need it to succeed.
So I wanted to ask a question, but for some reason the chat doesn't let me type in the question. Was it closed off or something?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Still up, but you can ask the question here.
Oh, it just says the chat is only available during the meeting, so I'm not sure why it says that. But anyways, so I wanted to ask, you mentioned that marketing could look different for different businesses, right? I mean, whatever industry the business is in, the marketing will look completely different. Some will be geared more towards trade shows and in-person marketing campaigns, whereas the others will be more of an online presence, social media, or there are those which could also be more network-based marketing. But I wanted to ask, in general, just by maybe statistics or new experience, Would you say social media is the most effective marketing today? Is it?
Well, I'm going to pick on the word you use, effective. Effectiveness in marketing has a different term. Effectiveness really just means how, when you do a thing in marketing, the spend, time, effort you put into it, and that how correlated it is with business results. That's marketing effectiveness. That's a topic I geek on. That's a scientific definition. So in terms of effectiveness, now it's not always possible for most businesses or even applicable, but still the most impactful medium or channel is TV, actually, surprisingly. TV is still the most effective medium in terms of the amount you spend and the amount of people you get in front of and how much it causally correlates with business results. That being said, I do very little TV myself for the clients I work with because it's not often relevant, right? If I'm working with a very niche business, they can't use TV often because you just can't find a niche enough one where your audience is there, right? But social media is very effective. I use social media. I just caution paid social just because there's so many pitfalls along the way that causes you to really waste budget. And I can give you some examples, but it's really a whole other can of worms. But paid social media is great from you can start really small. You don't have to spend a lot to get started. It's not necessarily cheap. I think that it looks cheaper than it is, but you also get worse impressions, like people in front of it, than you would find on TV or a billboard, to be honest. So depending on the audience you're trying to reach, billboards and TV actually beat social media in terms of per impression, the cost of it truly, because there's a lot of garbage on there and bots and spam that click your links and you pay for those too. So there's a lot that goes into it that's kind of beyond this conversation. But the one thing I will say is that paid social media is great if you know how to use it, but be careful all the different things that you can get yourself wrapped up in there, and then you kind of lose sight of your true goals, which is maximizing the amount of your audience that you get in front of, maximizing their attention and resonating with your message, and then when they get to your website, making it really easy to purchase. A lot of people use social media for conversion campaigns or traffic campaigns. Those ones fall prey to a lot of botting, or showing up in front of people who were going to purchase from you anyway. I've seen that happen a lot. And then tracking is all sorts of strange in social media. So be careful with it. If you're just getting started with social media and you really do want to do paid social media, which I do think is a good call for lots of businesses because the ability to get in front of very specific individuals, I would suggest maximizing your campaigns for reach. Maximizing people seeing if you run a video, maximizing it for people who are watching the video as much as possible and through reach. I wouldn't worry about traffic campaigns or conversion campaigns in the beginning because of the problems they can have.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it's a nuanced answer, so it's hard to give you clear. But TV is surprisingly still the most effective channel available. It's just expensive to get on. Yeah.
Thank you. And with regards to the social media, what would you say is well, I wouldn't say most effective platform within social media, or like the most profitable platform within social media? If you say TV is the most, most effective all around, then within social media, what platform would you say is the most effective? Is it YouTube, Facebook, which?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, this is being recorded. I'm going to be held accountable to what I say here, and it's not going to be applicable to different businesses situations. So be careful what I say. But I will say this, is you need to be where your audience is. And then you need to fight to get the best or highest quality impressions possible. And no matter where that is. I've seen really rubbish billboards. I've seen world-class billboards. I've seen amazing TV. I've seen wasted spend on TV. I've seen amazing resonating, effective social media ads on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I've also seen absolute garbage. Most of the time I see garbage. Most ads, in terms of effectiveness, there's a rating that Kantar uses, which is an institute on advertising effectiveness, uses a scale of 1 to 5 stars out of 5. Most ads, I think it's something like only 2 to 5% of all ads get a good effectiveness rating. 80% of ads are 2 stars or lower. So most ads are bad. So there's an advantage to learning how to create good advertising and really running it. You'll beat people who are spending more, are bigger brands, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I will say though I really like YouTube for the fact that you can get good attention and watch through of your content. There's also a ton of people on there. More than 1/7 of the planet uses YouTube. But what I'd say is like, don't get trapped up into what channel. You really need to be channel agnostic. Again, even though TV is maybe the most effective from an science perspective, that I'm hardly running TV for any of my work because this is not where my audiences are. You really need to understand who your audience is, where they are, and what's going to be the best way for you to get in front of them. That's effective first and then efficient. So being effective is way more important than any sort of efficiency with your spend or your time in the beginning.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Drew, I have another question. And so BB asks, can a company run without any marketing at all? And for a startup owner who is sales and operation person, do you advise that they take a course in marketing or just employ someone from start?
Well, we'll answer those, I guess, in order. Can a company run with marketing at all? Yeah. And I think you should. I think that marketing, again, is a multiplier. If you're multiplying off of 0, you're not going to get very far. So I think the first hires should be you nail your product and then gets a sales team together. And I've been asked to join projects where I've said kindly not ready yet, because really what they need is to hire sales staff and really understand their customer and really jump in. And sometimes they'll bring me in anyway to do customer research and really dive into who an ideal customer is for their product. But often, yeah, no, there's lots of companies that can grow dramatically to, I've seen companies get to 10 million a year without any marketing at all, just having a really good product and then having a strong sales team to cover it. So no, I don't think marketing is necessary. I think, again, it's a non-linear multiplier of what you've already got going on. And when you have that spark or a fire, marketing is a gasoline effect on it. But no, I don't think marketing is necessary. And this is speaking as a marketing professional. So yeah, that's my opinion. The other question was on should a leader take a marketing course? I think not necessarily how to run paid media or social advertising, but I think business leaders should really understand what marketing can do and what it can't do, right? Really understanding that marketing is not just sales at scale. That what marketing can really be effective at accomplishing and what it can't do, and making sure that you're covering those goals, right? And really it comes down to those two: brand awareness and sales enablement. But I would try to understand how people buy things would be the most important thing, I think, for a business leader to understand. You don't need to understand how to deploy it in marketing, but you need to understand who your audience is, how do they go about making buying decisions, what are their big fears they have, what motivates them to take action today, et cetera, et cetera. Really understand your audience and how people in general go about buying stuff, which is public information you can grab. That really is more important than learning any sort of marketing tactic along the way. But if you as a business owner are obsessed around your customer and solving their problems and really understanding them, so you're building a solution that really speaks to who they are, I mean, you really can't go wrong. I mean, that you will grow to some level just off of those traits and those obsessions themselves. So I don't necessarily think you need a course in marketing per se in the beginning. You more need to understand how people buy things and why they do and what causes them to buy things, and then understand your customer really well.
Thanks, Drew, for the informative insight. This was really great, and wishing everyone a good afternoon.
All right, it was a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody. If you have more questions, send me a message. I will be around. All right, take care.